So good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's meeting of the Surbiton Neighbourhood Committee at Glenmore House, and particularly warm welcome to those members of the public who joined us tonight. I'm Councillor Tom Reeve, and I'm chairing this meeting tonight. In the event of an emergency and the sounding of an alarm, the emergency evacuation procedure is to leave the hall by the fire exit right behind the our guests tonight and congregate in the car park. Anyone requiring assistance should remain in their seats and you'll be assisted from the building. Anybody who wishes to follow the agenda from their tablet or smartphone can do so by going to the Council's website and following the links to your Council and Council meeting calendar. So this meeting is being filmed for live broadcast on the Council's YouTube channel, and an archived version will be available to view on the channel after the meeting finishes. The broadcast will be suspended during any adjournments in proceedings, and if the committee resolves to consider information as exempt business. Members are reminded that microphones must be switched on and spoken into clearly for the broadcast. And please, can everyone present in the meeting also ensure that their mobile phones are switched off or in silent mode for the duration of this meeting. So I will start by inviting members to introduce themselves, and I think I'll start to my right.
Good evening, my name's Jackie Davis. I'm a ward councillor for Berrylands.
I'm Councillor Ian Manders. I'm a ward councillor for Alexandra Ward, and I'm also the portfolio holder for environment and planning.
Okay.
I'm Peter Herling. I'm the other councillor for Alexandra Ward.
Hello, good evening. I'm Anita Sharper, councillor in Berrylands Ward.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Alison Holt. I represent Surbiton Hill Ward. I'm a portfolio holder for economic development and leisure communities, and I'm also deputy leader.
Sorry, I'm Councillor Yogan Yoganathan, been one of the long-standing person for St. Mark's and Seething Wells. That's all I can tell you. You can call me Yogan. Thank you.
Thank you, Jürgen. And yes.
Good evening, Mariana Gonçalves from Tolworth.
Good evening, Ty Allen. I'm a councillor for Tolworth Ward. Thank you.
Hello, Andrew Waldridge from Tolworth Ward.
And we also have some officers present who will introduce themselves when they present their items. So we move on to the first order of business, which is public questions. We have a period of no more than 30 minutes for questions on matters relevant to the committee. And we'd like to encourage questions to be submitted in advance so that officers have an opportunity to answer them, although that is not absolutely necessary, and it's also not always possible to get the answers in time for the meeting. I understand we have questions this evening. I'll invite each person to ask one question and the opportunity to ask a supplementary question if appropriate. Any subsequent questions a person may have will be considered only after everyone has had the opportunity to ask the first question, if time allows. So ask everybody to be as concise as possible, please. If you wish to preface the question with a statement, be brief and to the point, and you'll be given up to 3 minutes to ask your question. And Fiona, our Democratic Services Officer, will inform you when the time is up. So I'd like to start by asking Liz Mitchell and Simon Laycock to ask a question each. Thank you.
Yeah, it is on. Good evening, councillors. My name's Liz Mitchell and I live on Thornhill Avenue, and I think I've been to every single meeting for the Surbiton Neighbourhood Committee for the last 2.5 years, so I'm sure you know what I'm going to be asking you about. So my question tonight is, the TfL Healthy Streets approach does not prescribe an exact number of trees per metre of street. but focuses on placing trees in a way that maximises their environmental, social and aesthetic benefits. There are no trees on Tolworth Road between the A243 and Thornhill Avenue, a distance of 230 metres. There are no trees on Thornhill Road between Red Line Road and Douglas Road bus stop, a distance of 200 metres. And there are no trees on Thornhill Avenue, a distance of 190 metres. How is this consistent with the RBK philosophy of cleaner, greener? When the survey to residents came out earlier this year asking for suggestions and recommendations, and it included things like trees and benches, there were several people on our roads, Thornhill and Tolworth, who made suggestions for locations for trees. In the 6 pages of recommendations which this committee asked us for, we identified over 20 potential locations for trees on these streets. Why has RBK ignored resident suggestions for trees? Good question. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Unfortunately, we got your question today, and the officers who would be able to provide an answer for us on this weren't available to answer the question today. So we will get back to you on this question in the next week or two.
Week or two? Can I hold you to that? My supplementary question is, on what basis were our suggestions ignored?
I'm not sure that your suggestions have been ignored, but we will certainly look into this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I was going to let you carry on, but
I was waiting
Simon
for
Lakeheart,
permission.
please.
Thank you, Chairman.
Beg your pardon.
I'm asking this question as a resident of Thornhill Road, but also as a parent and governor of Tolworth Girls' School. When will residents get sight of the planned improvements to the mini roundabout on the junction of Thornhill Road and Red Lion Road? And when would construction begin? And this is a question I've been asking for 2 years, and we've just started a new school year. This is a junction used by dozens and dozens of school children every day. It's extremely dangerous. The junction is designed for through traffic and for keeping it quite speedy. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your question. Again, I haven't had a chance to confer with highways officers because they were actually, the officer we need to speak to is on leave today. But we will take this question to them and get an answer and come back to you in due course. So thank you for that.
Can I just ask something? Do you see this as a priority, the safety of this junction?
I would defer to the highways officers who have the expertise on this issue. Can also tell us about any accident. They can also interpret any accident data from the area that may have a bearing on the safety of this junction. So I think we just need to wait and get an answer from them. But thank you very much for the question. I believe we have some other people here who wanted to ask questions, and I would like to ask Andy Elmer, if you're here, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not expecting an answer to this tonight, but I hope it will be passed through with your support. Last Saturday, we held a very successful street party in the Ridings, something we've been doing for years, many years. However, when applying for permission to close the road, etc., this year, we had a new request from RBK. We were asked to prove that 75% of residents wanted the party. I inquired why this 75 threshold had been set. After all, none of you required a 75% mandate to be elected. Brexit didn't require a 75% majority in a plebiscite. And it certainly didn't need 75% approval before a roadblock was imposed in King Charles Road. The response I got from the Borough was that the new rule was put in place following a number of complaints from residents. Well, I thought that was, if it's that important, then fair enough, they should take that action. But there was no attempt to justify why they picked the 75% figure, other than to say it was designed to minimise complaints. Well, if you want to minimise complaints, you make it 100%. Anyway, I submitted a Freedom of Information request asking how many complaints have been received in each of the last 5 years. I received a response from the Borough. There have been none. So either someone at RBK can't count, or I'm being told pork is. My outstanding questions are, why was it really thought necessary to change the criterion, and why was the figure of 75% chosen when a figure of 50.1% would be the democratic option?
Okay, well, thank you for that question. As you said at the beginning, as you hinted at the beginning, I don't have the answer to that question here tonight, but we will endeavour to get an answer and come back to you via email. So I believe you've left. Yes, you've left your email address. So we'll get back to you about that. Okay. But thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
Oh, and sorry, our Democratic Services Officer says she'll also chase up the FOI request, I think.
I've received that.
Received that, right, okay, yes. Right, okay, great. Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Elmer. Right, so could I ask Phil Renton to, Phil Renton. Right. Hello.
Hello. Is this working? Yeah. Good evening, everybody. My name is Phil Renton. I'm on the committee of the Seething Wells Action Group. And two questions, basically. An update, please, on the status of the 215 order that was should have expired, or did expire in October 2023, which includes the railings, the cleaning up of the site in terms of rubbish, general maintenance of the site. And also, at the last Neighbourhood Committee meeting, it was agreed unanimously that another Section 215 order would be submitted to pay detailed attention to the maintenance and repair of the pump house, which is currently an eyesore. More graffiti has been added. So two questions. Current status of 215 and the new 215, has it been submitted to the owners? Thank you. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Both related to Section 215 notices on the Seething Wells site, and I believe Tim Naylor may be able to give us a response to that.
No, is that working? Yeah. So I'm Tim Naylor. I'm the Assistant Director for Strategic Planning and Infrastructure at the Council. So the first one, in terms of the existing Section 215, elements of which were intended or were directed to be completed by October 23. I did report in December to this committee to say, I think I probably reported in April as well, but I wasn't here at that meeting, to say that the works had temporarily ceased due to the fact that their highways licence had expired, and due to the weather conditions at that time of year, their Harris fencing was deemed to be unsafe, so that was taken away by our highways team, as far as I understand it. Their contractor, who was not able to wait whilst the highways licence was renewed and the weather improved, moved on to another site. I have recently been engaged in conversations with the owner and then also our highways team to get the licence re-established, which is in progress. And in fact, I've got a telephone call about that tomorrow. And that will then enable us to resume the works. As you probably know, those works are happening in stages, so they have to harris off the area, shot blast it, paint, and then move on. But that is the process which will be recommenced, and they will complete that work. So that's where we are at the moment in terms of that first Section 215 notice. As I've also explained, we couldn't take out action immediately after October because we have to demonstrate that there's some consideration about giving the owners the opportunity to recommence the work and to carry on. I agree that that time frame has considerably lapsed, but as I've explained, I am working now to enable the highways team to reissue licences to get the owners to commence the work again. So that work will resume as and when that takes place. In terms of, and for the, actually what I should have said at the beginning, so forgive me, is that just to explain to people the purpose of a Section 215 notice, it's for us to take steps requiring, or the local planning authority, to take steps requiring land to be cleaned up when its condition adversely affects the amenity of the area. And that's a quote from the Section 215 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. So in the context of your second question, the proposal to convert and change the use of the former pump house building and the associated land to Class E brackets GI, office use and ancillary works including landscaping, came to this committee in April with an officer recommendation to improve. Now, had that been approved, that would actually have satisfied the purpose of a Section 215, which is to improve the amenity of the site. Now, because the committee chose, as they have the latitude to do that, to refuse that application, there is a strong likelihood, and I have an informal discussion with the owner about whether they're going to appeal that decision. Informally, they are going to appeal it, but I've not had anything formal through from the planning inspectorate. Now, whilst that conversation is ongoing, I am not going to be issuing a Section 215 notice on that site because there may well be a pending appeal to that. And I think, A, I don't have a budget, and B, if the planning inspectorate supports the decision, then yes, there may be a case for serving a Section 215. If the planning inspectorate doesn't support that decision, then it will get approved by the planning inspectorate as a third party. So it will decide that decision was not sound. And the point being that if I were in a similar position, I would argue at an inquiry that the purpose of the application to improve the quality of the pump house would have satisfied the obligations that are now being pursued through a Section 215 notice. So the whole conversation rather focuses around what the planning inspectorate might consider to be the right decision in that context. And I won't move forward with a decision to serve a Section 215 notice until that decision is taken.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tim. Did you have a supplementary
Could
question?
I just, yeah,
Yes.
well, in terms of the existing 215, I asked the question, why haven't the owners cleaned up the site? I mean, there's boats being stored there. It looks like a boat yard, a wrecked boat yard. So rubbish, in inverted commas, boats could all be done irrespective of the no work being done on the railings because of the highways license. But in saying that, if you go down there now, there is a section Harry's fenced off, so it suggests that they're actually starting to do painting on the railings. But are they doing that without a license? I don't know. You're saying that they haven't got the license back yet. So I asked that's an open question, and maybe you could follow that up.
So two parts to that question then. The first one is the wider the wider amenity issues, I suppose, that are on the site that you've just raised in terms of, you know, boats and other debris. And I don't know whether I wasn't the enforcement officer. I didn't work with the legal team in terms of what that Section 215 notice comprised. But it may not have included that. I don't know whether it applied to the generality of the site. So that's something that I can pick up. That's fine. I will subsequently raise that with the owners. In terms of whether they should be working, because I wasn't aware, I haven't visited the site, I wasn't aware that the work had commenced.
Well, it looks like it has. Yeah.
Again, if it has commenced, then it may well have commenced in the absence of a highways licence. The owners know that they shouldn't be doing that. And as I say, I have got a call about that tomorrow with our highways people to make sure that that's put in place, so I can ask that question. But I will also speak to the owners as well tomorrow in order to make sure that A, the work is able to proceed, but also proceed within the context of the requirements that be necessary in terms of highways licensing. And I will also pursue your question about the additional amenity issues that may be on the site as well. Yeah, okay. So I'll follow that up.
And just one last one, if I may.
I'm sorry, according to our rules for question time. Okay. But I would like to suggest that if you like to, I need to give the other questioners a chance, but if there's still time, you could come back and ask a follow-up question to that. But thank you. I don't want this to turn into a debate or a dialogue at this point. So but thank you very much. Could I ask Liz Mitchell and Simon Laycock if they have any further questions?
At the meeting in March earlier this year, it was agreed that measures would be implemented on Thornhill Road and Tolworth Road, and they included some SIDs, adding to the ones that are already there, traffic monitoring with something or other monitoring, and slow signs. Do we have any timeframes for those, please?
Again, I'd have to follow that up with the highways team. And to find out where we are with that. But my understanding was that they were very close. I would have thought, they were very close to having completing that work. But we'll have to come back to you on that.
And my supplemental question to that is, will there be resident communications? And in the 6 pages of recommendations that we made to some of the alterations on our roads, we suggested locations for SIDs and for the slow signs. Will they be taken into consideration, like the trees?
I'm sure that will all be taken into consideration, along with, but at the end of the day, it will be highways officers using their best judgment as to where's the best place to deploy them. I'm sure that's what they would say if they were here tonight. But we'll have to come back to you on that one. But thank you very much for your question on that. And if I can ask Simon Laycock.
The communication to residents about that.
Yeah, I just want to sort of confirm with you, what kind of communication with the residents are you going to make?
The communication with residents regarding, regarding
in terms
what?
of improvements to the roads.
The things that were agreed in March 23. What we just talked, what
the list of things.
Simon is just adding to my question.
The contract, right. My understanding of the procedure is that the contractors will issue letters to residents when works are imminent. For example, on the raised tables that are being worked on. But the regards to the putting up the signs and so forth, I'd have to ask if Highways plans to notify anybody of that, but I suspect probably not, because it's not considered to have a major impact on residents on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. No further questions. Okay. Phil, did you want to make a follow-up question on the seething wells, or?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Tim,
Yeah.
you said
Far away.
that an appeal is pending on the planning application for the change of use of the pump house. Have you got any idea of when that appeal will be submitted?
Yeah, as I said, I've had an informal conversation with the owners who stated that they're minded to appeal. I've not had any formal confirmation of that, and I've not received anything from the planning inspectorate to suggest that they've been instructed or they've received an appeal.
Right.
But as far as I'm aware, it is pending, and I haven't spoken to the owners recently, but I can speak to them about that.
And so would you suggest this year, or is it 2025, 26 for the...
I can't
You
conjecture.
can't,
I have no idea.
Okay. Right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil. We have about 8 minutes left. I understand there was one person who might want to ask a question, but I hadn't filled in a green form. I just wanted to know if you wanted to ask the question or whether we'll move on. I'm sorry? Okay, well, if you'd like to ask a question, we do have a little bit of time here. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda.
But it's not a formal question. It's
Oh, okay. Perhaps we could talk after the meeting, or we could talk another time then, if it's not if you don't think it's appropriate for this committee.
Well, it's to do with the area.
Okay. Please go ahead and ask your question, and we'll do our best to answer it.
Well, it's about the drains and environment and the roads and cleaning and that sort of thing. But the drains in particular, especially down the church parade walk, the little alley there, the drain is full up with leaves, and I've seen the rain come out and it gushes into the road at the side and creates a torrent of water. And that's not the only drain. All the drains I've peered in are full up with leaves. So why isn't anybody cleaning the roads, the drains, and there's rubbish everywhere?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. And could I just ask, if you give us the details, we can look into it. But could yeah. And I just wanted to ask, have you reported it? You can report these things on the council website for drain clearance.
I can't remember the name of the lady, but she said she'd do something, but she hasn't.
Okay.
Somebody came and tinkered with it.
Okay.
Nothing actually happened.
If you leave your details, we'll try and get back to you on this. Okay. So thank you very much for your question. Yes, Councillor Jürgen Nathan.
Chair, I just wanted to thank Tim Naylor for elaborating the whole thing, and also thank you for Phil to ask that question, because even though we have got it on the agenda,
right, okay.
It's a serious issue, and I do agree with the
Well, we'll be coming to the season. Yeah, we'll have the agenda item on it.
I just want to thank both of you.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Yeah, since there was a time.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. We will get to the Seething Wells item on the agenda.
I know.
And have more time to discuss the importance of this. So let me just move on. Petitions, we had no intention to submit a petition, so none today. Fiona, do we have any apologies for absence?
Other way. Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have apologies for absence from Councillors Green and Councillor White.
Okay, thank you for that. So members need to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or any other registrable or non-registrable interests relevant to items on this agenda. Do members have any declarations of interest that they wish to make at this time? Yes, Councillor Davies.
Thank you. I have a very, very small indirect interest in the second of the community grants. The head-to-head theatre company quite often uses the corner house as a venue, and at the moment I happen to be chair of the artistic team at the Corner House. When the time comes, I think in the interest of transparency and good practice and so on, I will leave the room for the debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other declarations of interest? Okay, I see none. Thank you. The minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of July have been circulated to members. Do members agree to confirm the minutes are correct? Okay, agreed. I'll sign those later. And moving on. Right, so we move on to the Community Grants Program. So we have, this is item 6 on our agenda, and members of the committee and participants can refer to Appendix A of the agenda pack for information. So tonight the committee will consider 2 applications for neighbourhood community grants and an allocation for councillor ward funding. And so I'd like to ask James Geach to present this in a minute. It's basically an application from Amber B. And over to you, James Geach.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As you've stated, the committee have been asked to consider applications as part of its community grants programme, and a report for that purpose has been appended as Appendix A. Before I make a start, I'd like to briefly introduce my colleague, 2 seats to my right, Varani Patel. Varani has been looking after our grants programme behind the scenes for the last 2 years. She is our community finance officer. She does all the administration for this programme, as well as a number of other grants programmes. So she's here tonight as part of her continual professional development to see the decision-making process, so she knows the process from beginning to end.
Oh, well, welcome, and nice to see you. Thank you.
So as you stated, the first of those applications is a £3,000 application, neighbourhood community grant application from Amber B, community interest company based in Chester. As set out in paragraphs 5 to the 7 of the report, the application meets all the minimum requirements of the programme. I'd like to draw members' attention to the very late material I circulated just before the start of this meeting. As part of the pre-application discussions, for want of a better term, we did ask the applicant to evidence what discussions they have been having with our local schools and what buy-in they have from our Surbiton primary schools. So they brought this along prior to the start of the meeting. Najma from Amber B has very kindly agreed to join us, as we're going to give you a very brief presentation on their application. Thank you, Chair.
Right, welcome, Najma, and please have a seat.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I do appreciate it. Is this on? Okay, cool. So the first thing I wanted to do was to highlight the need for the project. New NHS figures have revealed that the number of children referred for NHS mental health treatment nationally rose to 39% in a single year. So it was around 839,000 children in 2021 to over 1 million in 2022. So that is just one of the things from lockdown. Children just seem a lot more disengaged, especially in schools. I have got a relationship with the schools as well, and it's pretty clear from speaking to the schools that the years 5 and 6 is just not the same. The engagement is not the same. The children seem desocialized. So education, it's just a lot more difficult for teachers at the minute. And some of the things that I highlighted was actually in those quotes that I've just put out as well. So one of the things that I spoke to the head teacher for Lime Tree Primary School, she mentioned why mindfulness education would be a massive, massive help for the children, because especially for the year 6s, as they're the ones that are going into high school and making that transition, and that's quite a big jump in terms of socialisation and what you actually expect from children's education as well. Mindfulness is important in primary schools, especially in a diverse and inclusive school as Lime Tree, because it helps children develop emotional regulation, focus and empathy. In a setting where children come from various cultural, linguistic, and social backgrounds, mindfulness fosters a sense of respect and understanding. It teaches children to manage stress, embrace differences, and create a supportive community. By promoting self-awareness and compassion, mindfulness contributes to a positive learning atmosphere where all children can thrive academically and socially while feeling valued and accepted. That's just one of the quotes that we received. I always think it's important to speak to the schools to see if there is a gap of support in mindfulness education and also internet safety. That is something that has been a growing issue within schools, especially with the year sixes. Ben Martin for Our Lady Immaculate, he definitely had quite strong views on that. He said, schools recognise that children are being exposed on platforms that are not physical or in school. So to introduce that as part of their education in schools is important, because when they go away and they go on Xbox or Minecraft, etc., they're just online and they don't realise that what they say and what they do will have a lasting effect on whoever it is, whether it's themselves or the people that they're around with online. And also, that's what we try to tackle as well, because schools do have a lot of online safety, online safety posters, for example, on their websites. It's all over their websites, but there's not a lot of foot traffic there, and that was for the benefit of the parents. So what our projects do is they include the parents as well. I think I've shared some workbooks, but that's just one part of it. What we've also included is an actual PSHE course for the teachers. It'll be about a 3-month-long, that's what we recommend, 3-month-long course to really hammer that home about mindfulness and internet safety, because they do go hand in hand. What you say and what you do online is just as effective as what you do and what you say in person. The Kingston Antisocial Behaviour Crime Statistics actually report that as of May this year, the area's crime rate is 17.6% compared to the national crime rate. And of all reported crimes in Kingston, 17.2% is made up of antisocial behaviour. And that's something that we really do want to try and tackle, as we feel that mindfulness education, it's been shown to reduce antisocial behaviour, because it creates more awareness about how you act and what you say, and also how that's going to affect the people around you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. What we'd like to do is see if any members have questions for you. So I'd just like to ask our members, do you have any questions for the applicant? And I see Councillor Schapper. Anybody else? Yeah, okay, and possibly Councillor Davis. So Councillor Schapper.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for presenting. Just a couple of questions. I'm really interested in your the objectives that about fostering mindfulness in the primary schools, and what from your experience comes from the antisocial behaviour link? Because I wasn't sure how the link with the primary school mindfulness. So is that about prevention or early intervention? Is that where you were trying to embed the notion? But I was just interested in how it's associated with or linked up to antisocial behaviour per se, because what do you think is the primary goal of the sessions? That's really interesting. And also you mentioned about the volunteer teaching professionals. So how do you go about recruiting at a local level? Because I see you're based in Chester. So do you have links to the local area in terms of, do the schools themselves teach the modules? Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah, so the schools themselves teach the modules because they're the ones who know their children the best. It wouldn't be right for me to go into a school and just assume I know how best to approach the subject with the children if I don't already have a relationship with those children. Whereas the teachers that are already there have a look at these subjects and they'll tackle that how they best see fit. We provide the guidelines for it, but then the teachers are the ones who are going to know best how to approach it. And that's where the volunteer part comes in, because they're the ones who happily take on the projects and they're the ones who implement it best. With the antisocial behaviour, it is early intervention. That's what we want to do. Sorry, a bit of my scouse came through then. Yeah, so that's what mindfulness education, that's really what we want, because as I said, with lockdown and everything, children aren't quite grasping the socialisation part at the minute. And as I said, the schools they've recognised it instantly, that even though they're trying to engage with the children, it's not as strong as it used to be.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Davis?
Just a quick question. Do schools actually have enough time in their curricula for mindfulness? My concern is, just from my own experience when my son was at primary school, resilience was the buzzword then, and he was taken out of PE to do resilience, and it just finished him, really. So I just wonder how you fit it in, really.
Well, for example, actually, Ben Martin, when he's only been the head teacher for about 3 years, he said that that's something that he knew straight away off the bat when he started. That's something that he's heavily invested in. So a lot of schools actually do put that into their curriculums as part of lesson plans. So it wouldn't be like an extracurricular outside of school or anything. It would be within the actual lessons. So it won't, for example, exhaust anybody. It's part of the curriculum that we'll engage it into the curriculum. Because I know Ofsted look at that as well as something that needs to be approached. And that's something that they have as a marker. So he's definitely said, so what he said was it's a huge journey that the school have taken on over the last 3 years, as they believe it's an important foundation for children, putting them in the right frame of mind to learn. And any more information that he could get, he will happily take it on.
Okay. Do you know if it's taken as part of the PSHE then, lessons?
It's not, no. So that's why I always get in contact with the schools to see if there is a gap of support that they would need that. So if there wasn't any schools on my list, for example, in Surbiton, I get in contact with all those schools to see if whether they do want the project or not. Because I know some schools have I think it's called Mind, but that's not something that is incorporated at home as well. That's only something that comes maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. They have someone come in, but if you're incorporating it in a lesson once a week for an hour or so, that's then building children's resilience.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any further? Yes, Councillor Holt, and then Councillor Highlander.
Thanks. I do think it's a great project, and it sounds like you've done it elsewhere. So it was really just to see, and what we usually look for is for some feedback on how well it's gone. So I'm sort of thinking about what feedback have you had already from schools where you've done it, and also I don't know how we would get feedback on how well it's gone. I know it's local schools, but I don't know if you would come back.
It would be me, yeah.
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 So that was really, you know, sort of to find out what the outcomes you've already achieved in other places, and if you could come back.
Yeah, so some of the places that we've worked in before, for example, Bristol, we actually did quite a lot of schools there. And what we do is when they've agreed to the project, for example, and it's been implemented, we then get in contact about 3 months later, because we like to keep a relationship with the schools. It's always important to hear whether what we've done has been useful or not. And some of the schools, honestly, it's been brilliant to see how much it's impacted the children. And what we also like to do is we like to host roadshows to invite the schools, all the schools that have been involved in the projects. We get people to come in, have talks, and little sessions around adoption of mindfulness techniques. And it's really great to see. So some of the feedback, I can send that to you as well if you like, James, because we have some reports already there.
Yes, please.
It was actually one of our councillors who's not here is the children's portfolio holder, which would have been lovely for her to be here to find out. But it's just suddenly, and I think she might have asked it anyway. I mean, it's you're only looking at Surbiton schools. I'm just wondering, you know, we've got other neighbourhoods, and I'm just wondered if you've approached the other neighbourhoods to do a similar thing. That was my other question.
So I did contact Councillor Leslie Heap. I haven't heard back from her yet, so I haven't been able to implement the project in the schools in her area. I have recently just started working with Warwickshire and Bristol, Ascot, Newcastle, Surrey. There's quite a lot of schools, yeah.
Oh, it's just for the rest of the borough. So maybe if you want to take that to the other neighbourhoods, I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We do have 3 other neighbourhoods as well. I know you haven't put in applications for those thus far, but you're very welcome to do so if you'd like to.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Hurlinger, please.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Sort of, you mentioned you're based in Chester, or the reports indicate you're based in Chester. Can I ask how long you've been going?
So Amber B started in March 2022.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tyler.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful project. It's definitely a need for it here. You say here you've got 461 participants. How is that worked out? You only have that many registered to participate? Or?
Yeah, so what I always do is I get the PAN number from the schools, so the amount of children that they've got in their years 5 and 6s, and then the parents/guardians, that part is an estimation, because obviously I'd never want to assume that every child has got 2 parents, so I always go off that.
Sorry, just a follow-up. Is this your first time in Kingston? Or in
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any further questions from yes, Councillor Manders.
Yes, I mean, this sounds like a very worthwhile project. There's an article this week, I think, in The Guardian, saying how all children suffered in lockdown, but girls in particular, because they lack the social contact, which is part of their development. And so I think any project like that which helps with that. I would like to see more kind of endorsements by the schools that are going to be, as it were, served by this. But it's only a relatively small amount of money. Let's award the grant, let it roll, and let's have reports afterwards.
Okay, well, you've jumped ahead. I haven't moved the motion yet, but yeah, thank you anyways. Okay, so I don't think there's any further questions. So if you would like to go ahead and return to your seat, we'll now move on to the discussion section, the debate. So I will start by moving from the chair the following recommendation: that the application for £3,000 of neighbourhood community grant from Amber B, as set out in paragraphs 5 to 7 of the report, be approved. And do I have a second for that? Yes, Councillor Manders. Thank you very much. So if members of the committee wish to speak, would you please raise your hands to indicate? Yes, Councillor Davies. Anyone else? Councillor Shapper, please. Right. And Councillor Wright. Okay. Councillor Davis, please.
I just want to say how much I really like workbooks. You know, the word workbook fills me with trepidation, but they're not workbooks, they're lovely. Just the spelling of practice all the way through. Sorry, I'm a pedant, sorry.
Any feedback is brilliant for me.
When it's a verb.
Right, okay. If you need a proofreader, that's fine. Councillor Shapper.
Thank you. It was just to endorse what you were saying about the impact of lockdown and how each child as an individual will perceive the information they receive very differently and how they interact with the web. As you're saying, the safety element is so important, but I think it's an educational part with as I say, to tie it with the parents as well. And I think it's really good to see that embedded at a primary school level. So I just think it's a very worthwhile exercise. Thank you very much.
Do we have any further comments from members? Okay, thank you. So I was to say, I think everybody's. I think we're hearing that that so far that people see this as a valuable. Something that we would value having. And can I take that as unanimous, or do we need to go to a vote? Okay, that's unanimous then. Thank you. Congratulations to you. Thanks. And thank you very much for coming and presenting to us tonight. So I will move on. Well, actually, I'll ask James to move on to our next grant, please.
Thank you, Chair. The second application this evening, also for a neighbourhood community grant, is from Head to Head Sensory Theatre, a returning applicant. The details of the application are set out in paragraphs 18 to 27 of the report, where we confirm that once again the application does meet the minimum requirements of the scheme, and he has very kindly joined us to come and talk about the application again and present to it. As a returning applicant, we ask all previous applicants, as Variety well knows, to complete a monitoring form for their efforts of the previous year. That has been completed for last year, and a brief summary is set out there in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for inviting me back again. As I said, it's very nice to see some familiar faces, so I know a lot of you will understand what I'm going to talk about. I'm Annie. I'm a volunteer for Head to Head Sensory Theatre. We're based in Surrey, and we've been coming to Surbiton for many years now. We serve the special needs community, not just the children, but their whole families. So it's not a drop-off point for these children. They're neurotypical siblings and their parents, grandparents, they all come and have a time together. We would like to bring 2 pantomime performances to Surbiton and Kingston and 2 summer shows. We work on the same level as the audiences. So our actors move into the audience, sharing the sensory experiences and making sure that the children have an understanding of what is going on, so that they are become part of the shows, the role play, team play, they're encouraged to become part of the action. So they sit in the audience and put on a costume, or if they feel brave enough, they can come up on the stage and become part of with the actors, become the show. And you can imagine how empowering this is for these young people, whether they stay in their seat or get out there and strut their stuff. Whatever they're doing, it's something that's taking them a little step further in progression. With our pantomime, it's a sit-down performance, but there is a little sensory area where they can escape if they're finding a sensory overload. It's important, very important that, because not all children can sit down and watch a whole show. Although it's only 45 minutes, and we do have the parents telling us that they're amazed that little Johnny sat still for the whole time, and that's a real feather in our cap, I feel. But there's that offshoot, that little point that they can escape to if they need. In the summer, or possibly Easter, I'm not sure when, we will provide something that's slightly different. It will be a sit-down show, but the families in the morning and the afternoon will be encouraged to bring a picnic and to meet and share experiences, to gain support from each other. And this has been our ethos ever since we were created 20-odd years ago, that the families need to, they don't meet at the school gate. So they need somewhere where they can meet together to gain support. So I'm sure I've missed off lots and lots of things. As you can gather, this is off the cuff. I don't prepare notes. I like to talk from the heart. But I very much hope that if we are given a grant, that some of you will come along and see us in action, because I think it's far better than my bare words. If you see these young people enjoying themselves with their families, it'll be wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that talk. Do any members have any questions for Annie? Councillor Gonsalves?
Thank you. I think it sounds great, and I know we support this every year, and I'll see if I can attend this time. I just had a couple of questions. So one is about the costs, and apologies, James, if you covered this already. But it says in the text, it says the £3,000 grant, but then in the table it says 5,000. So I just wanted to check which one is correct. And if it's 5,000, I'd like to know why it's changed so much from last year.
It's probably a typing error. I do the fundraising myself as well. I'm one of those sort of all singing, all dancing people.
Amazing.
So yes, I apologise for that. Yes, it is 3,000 as it was last year. We maintain our costs as much as we can.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you.
I just had
did you have another question? Yes, please go ahead.
Sorry, we always do this in Tolworth, but so there's a bit of the text where it says that people from Surbiton will be invited, and then it talks about Corner House being in Tolworth. I just want to make sure that people in the ward of Tolworth are also invited, because we are also part of Surbiton.
Okay. It sounds as if I need to be in touch with you to find out how I can spread the word. Yeah, we're happy to spread it as wide as we can. Our biggest disappointment is if we find afterwards a family says to us, oh, if only I'd known. So yes, your help would be very much appreciated in spreading the word. We do it through the schools, Dysart and Beedlesford, but anywhere else, anybody has any connection, then I would be very grateful to receive that. My contact details are on the back of that folder.
Okay.
Flyer.
Back of this.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Waldridge?
Just saying, you're a great advocate for head-to-head, and I've seen the kids. They just love it, and it's it's great. I'm a bit deaf. Did you want 5,000? Did you?
No, 3 would be fine, thank you. I don't want to push it.
It's a pleasure. You're a great advocate. Thank you.
Do we have any further question? Councillor Tyler.
Sorry, it's a comment only.
Okay, well, perhaps save the comments until afterwards. Just move the motion in a minute. Are there any further questions? No. Okay. So just for the sake of procedure, I'll just move from the chair the recommendation, which is the application for £3,000 of neighbourhood community grant for the head-to-head sensory theatre be approved. So do we have a seconder? Yes, okay. I see Councillor Wooldridge. Thank you very much. And so I'll call on Councillor Thailand to make a comment.
Thank you, Chair. Now, I just want to say that really impressed with the presentation, and I'm glad it's happening in Corner House, which is in our ward as well. And looking at the feedback from last year, it's very high percentage of satisfaction. So I'm sure it's a wonderful project, well supported by the community. So thank you, yeah, and good luck with the show this time.
Are there any further comments? I think we're all pleased to see that this is continuing from year to year. So thank you. Thank you for coming back. And so I'll just ask, is this unanimous or do we need to go to the vote? Agreed. Okay. That sounds like it's passed unanimously. Thank you very much, Annie, for coming and presenting to us tonight. And good luck with the shows.
Thank you all very much. And I do hope some of you will come.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Right, and then I go back to James to talk about councillor ward funding for Christmas trees.
Yes.
You can believe that.
Yeah, I know it does seem very early, but by doing this early, we do ensure we get the pick of the forest or the litter, for want of a better term. So as set out in paragraph 28, the committee's been asked to consider whether it wishes to once again allocate council ward funding for the provision of 2 Christmas trees, one in both their usual spots, the first being the roundabout outside Surbiton station, and the second being in Tolworth at the junction of Yule Road and Princess Avenue. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So I think based on our previous debates on this, on the allocation for Christmas trees, I'd first invite members to comment on the proposal. And then if there's a consensus, we can move to the recommendation. So, but let me call on Councillor Shapper and then Councillor Manders, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, James. Just a quick question. We had breakdowns in previous papers on the Christmas trees by height. And always found that to be really useful because we could have a better idea of costings. Like would you be able to advise on those figures and what height of tree they're going to pay for? Thank you, James.
Yes, the tree at Surbiton Station will be 25 foot and the tree at Tolworth at the junction will be 20.
Okay, Councillor Manders.
Well, I think this is why I say bar humbug. I mean, Christmas is just, I'm sure now that the summer's over, we'll start seeing adverts on the television about Christmas and people trying to sell us goods. The shops will be full of it. It's just been totally overdone, I'm afraid. It's no longer a people's festival and it's turned to a commercial one. In the end, these trees are kind of, well, presumably they go to be chipped afterwards. They certainly won't be living trees, will they? They won't go anywhere else. It's a one-off. It's a crop, basically. And I don't really see why we're spending money on this. Many years ago, when I was chair of the New Malton neighbourhood, officers used to go around trying to get money out of the shops to do Christmas decoration lights. And it was really difficult. In the end, the whole idea of this was to bring people into New Malton High Street to shop and old joyfication. But the shopkeepers certainly didn't actually believe in putting money, putting their hands into their pockets for it. So I've got very reluctant really about the council spending money on a festival like this, which has just got so commercial. However, I'm probably sure I'm going to be overruled on this. So I thought I'd just say my piece.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Manders. Does anybody else wish to contribute?
I just want to...
Councillor Davis.
Okay, let's have a debate. I agree in many ways with the bar humbug idea, especially with Christmas. I do wonder whether, I mean, my personal view is that the one in Surbiton is in a very prominent place. It's brilliant. It may attract people. It's just, you know, the right tree in the right place. The Tolworth one, does that really encourage people to come to Tolworth? Sorry, Tolworth councillors. It's in a very strange place, out on its own. I see it if I drive down Elgar Avenue and turn right, but I doubt that anyone else really takes much notice. So my sort of amendment would be just to have one, maybe, but that's just me.
Okay, well, I think Tolworth was already smarting at the fact that their tree was 5 foot shorter than the one for Surbiton. So this is to really set the cat among the pigeons. So, order,
sorry,
please.
Just
order.
come back.
Sorry.
I just want to say I think it's in the wrong place. Just put it somewhere more prominent. Okay, I'll shut up.
Okay. Right, thank you, Councillor Davis. And now we end. I knew there's always an unexpectedly controversial item on the agenda, and I think this might have been it. So, Councillor Gonzalez, please.
Thank you. I see what you mean, Jackie. I think maybe we could look at the location. I don't know, maybe a discussion with James, maybe Broadway, like closer to the A3.
Yes, James, please.
Yeah, happy to look at other spots. We are somewhat limited if we want an illuminated tree because there's only so many power places that we can use, and also there's only so many spaces that accommodate a tree of that size. The reason why we have a 20-foot tree in Tolworth rather than 25 foot is 25 foot just simply wouldn't fit there. It would be too big. It would take over too much of the pavement. Otherwise, it would be equality.
Please.
It works quite well with my actual question, which was about the lights. I can't remember if we had lights in the
Yes,
Christmas
they're
tree,
illuminated.
but-
That's why. Sorry, I misheard you. Yeah,
Okay.
that's why it goes there, because that's where the power is in Tolworth. Yeah.
Okay, so there will be lights this year. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe there are lights on the trees every year, and part of the cost is maintaining those lights in terms of fixing them. Is that correct? That's part of the contract for installing, is that the lights will be fixed and any repairs will be made.
That's
part of
right.
that
So
cost.
the cost includes the installation of the trees, which includes a cherry pick at each location, the road closures to put them in place, especially outside the Surbiton station, the lights, the maintenance of the lights for the duration, and the removal of the tree afterwards. Yeah.
Do I have any further comments from councillors? Sorry? Oh, yes. Councillor Waldridge.
I'm in total agreement with Councillor Manders, but we got it's a middle line on this, and I'm pleased to see the figures that were sort of the previous year and last year and this year have proportionately reduced. So therefore, it's a middle ground. So fine, but I'd rather have the 20 foot in both places rather than 25 in Surbiton. I mean, let's face it, Tolworth gets a lot more traffic going through it. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay. Right. If they can't have a 25-foot one, they want to cut the other one down to 20. Okay. Do I have any further comments?
Sorry, I just want to come back on that, because surely the whole point is to encourage shoppers, not traffic. Sorry.
I would. Did you have a comment? Yes, Councillor Holt.
Yeah,
and then Councillor
I'm going to make a comment because neither of them are in my ward, so that's where I'll start with. We're not in Surbiton Hill. We've not got getting a tree, but I would say that having held meetings with my economic development hat on, having had meetings with the various shops and retailers on the high street, I think their comment was coming through was what do they get from the council, and one of the things that came up was decorations, and in a positive way, that they really did like the Christmas tree. And I have actually even had residents writing to me at the time to tell me how nice the Christmas tree is, particularly at the town centre, at the Surbiton town centre. So I would be very much very sad if we didn't have something there. I agree about the one in Tolworth, but we did look at that in the past, and it's because of, if you want to have lights on it, it has to be in that location. I think historically, when it was in south of the borough, that's where you had it. So whether if we can move it, then that would be great. But I would certainly like to see the trees.
Councillor Yoganathan.
I think, what can I say? What can I say? I've been a part of the Surbiton St. Mark's ward. For the last 23 years, we've been having these trees, and especially with the lockdown pandemic, and now the businesses are saying exactly our deputy leader said. I think all the businesses are struggling, and I can understand Ian's interpretation. Having said that one, we want the trees. But the costing, as you quite rightly said, is an excellent costing. I thought it was much expensive. But in terms of the Tolworth, I know that is the only area where it's a PowerPoint. And also we do work with the Lady Immaculate's school as well, the church. They do come along, and whenever we are lighting, bringing the lights on, the mayor goes and turn it off, and children comes, and we talk about so many children. We are forgetting that. Not only bringing the children and the businesses as well, but lately it's all dropped. We want to highlight all the businesses as to survive. I know Surbiton business community is looking into it. We've been trying to organize something. They are struggling. We are struggling. And Tolworth, I know there are quite a few of them are going down the pan. But I think you are quite right, Marina. I don't know where to take the tree. Whether it's 20 or 25 doesn't make a difference. Having said that, I think that is the best one. But if you can organize the get-together with the local school, junior school, and the mummies and things, for at least 45 minutes, so the mayor or deputy mayor comes along and switch it on, we will do the same thing in Surbiton. That can create some interest. I am in favour. I thought I better mention it. My two councillors are not here, Diane and Les. They will say the same thing. I can talk for Surbiton quite a lot.
No doubt.
Because I am part of them.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Councillor. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So I'm hearing a little bit of a divided opinion here. I would be willing to entertain an amendment, if any, but I will first. Well, first I should move the recommendation, but then I would be willing to entertain an amendment if anybody wanted to put one forward. So I will move the recommendation that the allocation of £5,153.17 of council award funding for the provision of 2 Christmas trees for winter 2024, one in Surbiton and another in Tolworth, as set out in paragraph 26 of the report, be approved. So first of all, do I have a seconder for that? I see Councillor Schapper has seconded. Thank you. And now then, does anybody wish to? I heard during the discussion some people proposing a change, and I just wanted to ask if anybody wanted to make an amendment for our consideration at this point, or whether we move to a vote. So are there any amendments? Yes, okay. Okay, so I'm hearing let's move to vote. Can I take it as unanimous, or do we need to vote? Okay, so... Okay, it sounds like we need to have a vote. So I'd just like to say, all those in favour of the recommendation, the motion as read out there, raise your hand. Okay, you got that? Yeah. Okay. All those opposed? I see 0. Any abstentions? Okay. I see 1 abstention. Right, okay. There we go. Right, there we go. We've saved Christmas. Thank you very much. And we'll move on now to the Seething Wells update. So we have... Right, I'll pick up my point here. Members of the committee and the meeting participants may refer to Appendix B of the agenda pack for the report on Seething Wells. This is not an item for debate or decision, but the committee is asked to note the updates provided in the report. However, if members of the public or committee wish to make any brief comments on the matter, I'm prepared to take these. So first, I would invite the Assistant Director of Strategic Planning and Infrastructure, Tim Naylor, to give a brief overview of the item, and then we'll ask for any comments from members of the public, and then go on to comments from members. So if I can hand over to Tim, please.
Thank you, Chair. So do you want me to go through each update, or do you just want me to give you a general overview?
I think a general overview, unless
Yeah.
any members wish to have an item by item one.
Okay.
No, a general update, please.
Thanks. Okay, so this is the third report to this committee. First one being in December, second one being in April of this year, third one being tonight. And then there is an annual report, which is pretty much a facsimile of this one, going to the Place Committee on the 24th of September, as requested by or recommended by Place Committee last September 23, in terms of the annual reporting cycle. So the recommendations you'll be familiar with, you've seen them a number of times. They outline where we are with all of the recommendations, some of which are in progress, some of which are static, due largely to budgetary allocation, and some of them are noted, and particularly the one about the model of the working group being used elsewhere in the council as a good opportunity or a good methodology for engaging with communities on instances such as Seething Wells. So that is noted, but it's not actually been rolled out in any other example or any other situation, because that's not arisen yet. But I mean, it is likely to be used as a future model. Happy to take questions on the recommendations, particularly in terms of the ones that may be considered to be not moving forward as promptly as perhaps would like, or indeed any other recommendations that people want to go into in detail. So happy to hand over, Chair, to yourself and councillors.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Tim. I think we had some comments or questions from members of the public. Would you like to step forward, please, and to the microphone, please? And if you just start by introducing yourselves, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My name's Tylee Ling, and I'm one of the co-chairs of the Seething Wells Action Group.
And Phil Renton, again, on the committee of Seething Wells Action Group.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to respond to the recommendations. I think one of the recommendations that has been a point of contention a number of times is, I believe it's recommendation A, regarding evaluation of the site. Now, in the update, and this has been provided previously, the owners are citing that they're not willing to lease or sell the site. However, they have leased the site on a number of occasions, including, I believe it was called Farmers Weekly. It was a website offering the site for lease for agricultural use. So there has been evidence that the owners are willing to lease the site. It's just verbally they've said otherwise. Now, given the evidence and the roadblock the lack of this valuation presents, because we're not able to approach other organisations that would consider protecting the site, buying the site, and obviously leasing, and this is part of the wider recommendations, is it still not pertinent to get a valuation of the site?
Right, and would you like to respond to that, Tim?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I don't have a budgetary allocation in order to get a valuation for the site, as explained in the update on recommendation B. But similarly, I don't think that at the current stage the council has the budget which would be available to them in order to be able to lease the site, and then indeed, once it's leased, to be able to manage the lease of that site. So it is due to budgetary constraints that exist within the council. I'm happy to take that away and speak to councillors and finance colleagues. But at the moment, in terms of my own budget and the budget of the Place Directorate, we're not in a position to move forward with those recommendations.
Thank you. Please.
Okay, could I pick up update on paragraph 6? Item 6, sorry. This is referring to the listing application by the Council's Heritage and Conservation Lead. Could you just give a bit more detail of what that listing application details? Have you heard that, Tim?
Well, if you look at the website in Historic England and you look at the listing, it's quite an extensive requirement in terms of the level of detail. Now, I don't have that detail because I didn't put it together, although I did start it. I went through it back in March. I put in, you know, so I registered an account. I started the application, but I didn't submit the application because I wanted the heritage officer to go through it. So there's quite a lot of evidence in terms of you know, our own assessment and analysis, but also photographic evidence and obviously the detail, the historic detail that constitutes that site. I can. We can have a discussion about, or I can orchestrate a discussion with the conservation officer in terms of the level of that detail. But you will find that it will be comprehensive, and you will find that that particular officer would make an application as completely robust as it possibly could be in terms of the context of the information that's provided. But if you want a bit more of a discussion about that, then we can have that discussion with you.
No, that's encouraging to hear. And
Yes, please.
And the details on the website, you say? All.
Sorry, I should say that the details that will be submitted will be on that submission to Historic England.
Right.
I don't know whether they're publicly available.
Oh, I see.
But I mean, we'll have that information somewhere so we can talk it through with you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any further comments or questions?
Yes. Thank you, Tim, for the response about Phil's question on recommendation C. If I can just go back to recommendation A again, sorry. I understand that there's obviously budget constraints, completely understand that. I think everyone's aware of that in Kingston Borough. But it is cited on multiple occasions that one of the reasons for not going ahead with this is because of the owners are saying we're not going to sell or lease. And it's not necessarily that the council would lease it from the owners. There are other options. And frequently when SWAG and other members of the community, other organisations, including Kingston Society, have approached potential organisations that could lease a site like this, the question is, what's the valuation? And this is a consistent roadblock that we have because we don't know, because the valuation we get from the owners is an estimation in a passing conversation, and there's nothing concrete that we have to share with those people. There's been multiple interested parties in the past, and it's been a consistent issue for a number of years, and so it really would help progress things in some form. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I note that, and I'm, as I say, current budget constraints will preclude that. But I mean, we can keep it there. It's there as a recommendation. We can revisit that recommendation. Okay. But at the moment, I'm not in a position to move forward with it.
Okay.
Okay. Are there further questions or?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much for
you.
coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want us to hang on?
No, I'm getting old.
So do any members of the committee have comments that they wish to make on this item? Councillor Sharper, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Tim. Just a really quick one, having been one of the members on the Seething Wells working group. Great paper summary. Just question is on, so I just put my glasses on comments. And so the comment really is about what you said before about enhancing the management and maintenance of the site pending any appeal. Because I guess my comment is that whatever we aim to want to do with the site, would that I mean, I guess this is a question and a comment. I'm assuming it's dependent on any appeal, you know, whether the developers are put in an appeal on the site, because one of the things in this report was about that the developer isn't opening up any discussions about other projects or anything if they can't get funding for a particular development that they want to do. In other words, it halts their progress on what they want to do, but actually the appeal, if they did want to put an appeal in, that in itself, is that in itself going to put the sort of brakes on anything that we want to do in terms of wanting to maintain the site? So I guess my comment is that was my assumption. So it was kind of more of a question than a comment, but I'm just wanting to make sure that that's sort of where we're going with this. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't quite understand the question. I mean, let me just go through the comment about the appeal. So the applicant, Casina, submitted the planning application to improve the pump house, effectively, to use the pump house for a different use. That was refused, which is absolutely at your latitude to do that as a committee. The applicant now have the opportunity to appeal against that decision to the planning inspectorate. The planning inspectorate may uphold the decision that was taken and dismiss the appeal, or they may not. You know, they may accept that it should have been consented. In terms of what Casina then decide to do, either with the pump house or the remainder of the site, is up to them because they're the landowner. All we can do is continue to have a dialogue with the landowner in terms of what our opportunities are, as has been outlined, whether there are opportunities to lease the site, whether we can value the site, whether we can get involved in a constructive conversation with the owner about the future of the site. But as you're aware, to date, although we have engaged with the landowners and there has been dialogue between the landowners and members, councillors, but also with members of the community, the Seething Wells Action Group and the Friends of Seething Wells, those conversations have not really developed into anything particularly constructive. And I think, I don't know, but I envisage that the owners are playing a long game and waiting to see what might unfold, both in the context of the council's position, but also in the context of what the government may do in the context of planning reform and development. So I think those may be considerations that they're going to be using as what will inform their decision-making process as those you know, the government changes come to fruition.
Thank you, Tim. And sorry, did you have a supplementary to that?
Yeah, it was mainly just to try and reiterate about the idea of seeking proactive dialogue, because obviously all that while this is happening, the whole point is we were trying to be proactive about what we could do. But my point was that it's extremely difficult when you're dealing with a developer that not only has got a very fixed idea about what they want to get out of it, and as you say, playing the long game, but also about the fact that when that particular planning app came, one of the comments we made at the time was it was very difficult to know what the bigger picture about the site was going to be, because we felt it was a very piecemeal approach. But putting ourselves in their shoes, for instance, I imagine they thought it was perfectly reasonable to put forward a proposal to make the pump house look much better, in their words. But yes, it produces a challenge in itself. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Tim, please.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I don't want to speak for the owners, but my understanding of the conversations that we have collectively had with them, both in terms of the working group, but also the separate conversations that have taken place, I think in 2 or 3 meetings, probably 2 meetings, with Councillor Green, the other co-chair, who's Sarah, and members of SWAG and the Friends of, they've concluded really in terms of, as I say, I don't want to speak for the owners, but largely the owners' view is, yes, we will have a dialogue. We might even consider an element of the site becoming a nature reserve, but they would want some sort of mechanism for enabling that. That mechanism is likely to be a development prospect on the site. And I think the reality is the owner's concept of an enabling development is very different from the community's concept of an enabling development. And I think that's the sticking point. You know, the two don't align. And I think that's where the problem lies. But I also think in many ways the owners have come to the table. We've not reached an agreement, but I think they are willing to continue that dialogue, and I maintain that dialogue myself with the owners because that's what effectively my role is in terms of my involvement in the working group.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Councillor Holt, did you have a comment?
Yes,
or
yes.
even a question?
No, it's not. It was just more of a comment, and I think it is, just to say, to follow up on what Tim has said, it has been good having the working group. We've all come together, we've all made our comments, and we've agreed that to keep on talking about this, and whether it's coming to the committee, to place committee, but also that the officers are trying to have positive dialogue, because we all remember at that meeting, at the working group meetings, quite a horrible email that was written by the owners about their position and not really at the table at all, to where we are now, where there's a bit of conversation, albeit maybe not as much as we would like. And it always makes me think, because I'm just looking again at this, I went with Councillor Green, who's not here today, this evening, but we went to Woodbury Wetlands, which is a site owned by Thames Water, where they managed to negotiate and to have a really lovely wildlife wetlands there. And it's just a shame that we're not able to deliver that because we're not able to. I don't know whether the conversation would have been, I hope it would have been easier with Thames Water, but with the current owners with a different expectation from the site, it's become very difficult. So it is very disappointing. But just to say thank you for continuing to have some dialogue. We realise it's difficult. We've already had the comments you've made about and the answers to the questions on the court action that we've done. And it's going to come to Place Committee, where we'll be talking about it later in the month as well.
Councillor Jürgen-Nathan.
I think you heard all the positive things from Alison, and also some of the questions what Anita taught as well. And I'm glad SWAC is here. We've been working together. And I must thank Tim Naylor for a beautiful explanation of where we stand. I think one thing I wanted to say is, I think Liz, Green, myself, we've been there for last 22 years. We fought, rejected it. We have done everything possible. I know the owners are trying to be difficult, but with the SWAG group and the community group, we had a great thing. I've been part of the whole thing, and it was fantastic. We are talking, and it's fantastic. We are talking here in Neighbourhood to raise the awareness. One of the realities I have to say to you, there is no money, sir. Nothing in the council. We are waiting for it, and there's no money. But I hope that they are not prepared to talk to us. They are playing the game. But one of the things we must work on it, because the Labour government is there, they thought they have to reform the planning law. And I hope, let's wait and see what is happening on that. Certainly, as far as ourselves is concerned, that's our beautiful place with the heritage and sing and everything. We don't want anything happening to it. We would like to see what you suggested, like what is happening, like Barnes, only just round the corner on the modelling. So let's wait and see. But they are not prepared to talk to us. They are talking, but we are at least keeping a dialogue with them. I don't want to talk for too many hours, but I am part of the person. We rejected it 3 times. I am not even allowed to look at that. There's a crazy Jorgen looking at it. By end of the day, we have to work together. Let's hope that we are giving the pressure along with Tim. What Tim has said is, please understand, council hasn't got any money. But let us work together and try to see whether we can do something or we can bring the communities together. Let us wait and see what their long-term plan is. All I can say to you is please give your support. That the people power is more important to me. Mm-hmm. I think I can't fight on my own. So we can work together. That's all I can tell you. I'll cut it off. Thank you very much for all your contribution and the talk. And I'm sorry that Liz Green couldn't come, so I had to talk like this. I'm a very shy person, but today I had to talk. And Diane is also not here. But we are always willing to work together as a team. And thank you once again for Tim Naylor as well.
Thank you, Jorgen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Are there any further comments? I'll just briefly add my own comment. I'm very pleased that we continue to get these reports from Tim 3 times a year, it's really helped me as a relative newbie to this to the seething wells to understand the issues that are going on and to think about what the way forward might be if we could just get the stars to align in the right way. But thank you, and thank you to the work you do, and thank you for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
And I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, which is just briefly the work program. Would members just note the work program at Appendix C, and do we have any comments from members on the work program? Councillor Yoganathan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry that I'm just coming. I have no comments on the existing one. I am only interested in what we talked about, the Cranes Park Avenue among ourselves, the things which you wrote it on behalf of both of us, what we discussed. And Jeff and Ian come back and say, there's no sign on the other side. I know that. All I need to know is, if you can, tell me, what is the time frame? So far, I haven't had anything from Jonas or any highways engineer.
Okay,
it was supposed to be on the work program. What actually, in the meantime, the contact center contacted me. Sorry, Joga.
Okay.
We haven't responded it because we are already running late.
Yeah. Okay.
So
well, thank you.
I don't want to create another pressure.
Okay. Well, perhaps we can take this offline. But I will just say that I was supposed to have a meeting with Highways today for an update on that. The meeting had to be cancelled, but I'm due to have a meeting with them shortly, and we'll get an update and find out what's happening.
If you would, I would be very grateful.
It's on my list.
Because I didn't want to write to you because I saw that it's too much writing. It's too much.
But we will chase it.
All I am saying to you is because they did ask me, we didn't get anything from Jonas. And I said, there is a problem. I've asked that one.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
And also I didn't reply to contact center because they only contacted me yesterday. Right. Sorry, we run out of the time and we will try to chase you around. It's only arrived.
Okay.
So
if
you could.
Okay,
and then,
we'll do.
So they can send some information to us. Then at least it's there. Yeah?
Okay, thank you. We'll get that, and we'll get that onto the work program.
Thank you.
And once I've had a chance to speak to Highways for an update on that. There are no urgent items, and so I shall close the meeting. at 10 minutes past 9. Thank you very much, everybody, and good night.